Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking something that impacts so many of us, literally on a daily basis. Now, I want you to just think back for a moment. Somewhere along the way, maybe not with these exact words, but you likely learned that saying no was, well, dangerous. Somewhere in your past, you picked up on the idea that keeping other people happy was basically the necessary price for survival. You learned that your needs came second and that conflict meant loss. And because of that, you adapted.
Just let that statement sink in for a second. We live in a society where you're so often praised for being the friend who always says yes, or the employee who takes on just one more task, or the partner who apologizes first, even when you didn't actually do anything wrong. People call it being nice, but underneath all of that, there's a quieter, much more painful truth. Being endlessly accommodating isn't actually kindness, it's fear, wearing a really friendly face.
Section 1. The illusion of kindness. Let's look at what actually lies beneath.
Now, what's really interesting here is the clinical psychology behind this behavior. Psychologists point to a specific survival response called fawning. You've definitely heard of fight, flight, or freeze, right? Well, fawning is the fourth survival response. It's where a person manages a perceived threat by simply appeasing it. Think about your body's physical reaction for a second. Before you even open your mouth to say yes to something you don't actually want to do, your nervous system is already bracing for disapproval. Your chest gets tight, your shoulders raise up, you hold your breath. Your body has literally already decided there's a threat, and it's using compliance to keep you safe.
And because of that fawning response, you probably find yourself over-explaining really simple decisions, just to keep the peace. But here's the catch. While you think you're building peace, what you're actually building is a massive communication gap. When you give endlessly and expect some kind of unstated reciprocity, you're eventually going to feel completely unseen, absolutely exhausted, and strangely angry at people who never even knew there was a debt to repay in the first place. So people-pleasing doesn't actually produce peace. It produces quiet resentment.
Section 2. Where it really starts. Let's dig into the three main roots of this behavior.
And this brilliantly illustrates where it all begins. I really want to validate something for you right now. You were not born a people pleaser. Think about it. Babies are the ultimate boundary setters. They take up space, they cry, and their absolute favorite word is no. But three main roots change that. First up is conditional approval. Many children learn that love isn't unconditional, it's earned. A parent withdraws warmth after a bad grade, or punishments are handed out so severely that calm compliance becomes the only safe option. You learn pretty quickly that your needs are a liability. Second is the family peacekeeper. Some kids quietly become the mediator, sensing tension in the air before a single word is even spoken. And third is social conditioning, growing up in a culture that actively praises you for being low maintenance.
That social conditioning and family dynamic drill in this toxic, unspoken rule: your value goes up when your needs go down. The tragic reality is that a child acting as a family mediator is training every single day to anticipate other people's emotions way before their own. Every time you were called so easygoing or so accommodating, it just reinforced the terrifying idea that your worth was directly tied to how little you required from the people around you.
Section 3. The hidden costs and how this behavior is actively eroding you from within.
So the crucial point is, fast forward to today, and we have to confront the reality of what this is actually doing to you. Notice how chronic accommodation infiltrates three specific areas of your life. In relationships, partners of people-pleasers constantly feel distant because real intimacy requires two honest people, not one person just managing the other's comfort. At work, your coworkers will dump extra tasks on you, not because you're valued, but simply because you're available, which actually ends up eroding their respect for you. And most devastatingly, internally, you completely lose touch with knowing what you actually want. If someone asks you what you want for dinner or what you want out of life, and you just draw a blank, well, it's not because you're shallow, it's because your internal signal was muted years ago for your own survival.
If there is one single thing you take away from this explainer, let it be this: the more you accommodate, the more people assume you are totally fine with it. Saying yes to everything doesn't magically earn you a break in the future. It just signals to the world that your boundaries are fully open for business, reinforcing a vicious, never-ending cycle of burnout.
Section 4. How to rewrite it. Let's look at some steadier steps to move forward.
Let's move to and see how this builds a path out. Here's the good news. We can rewrite this. We don't fix years of people-pleasing by suddenly becoming cold or aggressive. That's a huge overcorrection. Instead, these 4 concrete steps create a roadmap to unlearning that fear and reclaiming your boundaries. These 4 steps are the foundation of rewiring your nervous system to understand that you are finally safe enough to have edges. So, let's break them down one by one.
Step 1 is building a pause. The people-pleasing response is usually instant, right? The yes leaves your mouth before your brain even registers what was just asked. So I want you to memorize this exact sentence. Let me check and get back to you. That one single pause naturally interrupts your automatic yes reflex and actually gives your true preference a fighting chance to surface.
Step 2 involves separating the request from your worth. You really have to realize that declining a request isn't declining the other person unworthy, and it's certainly not a rejection of you as a person either. It is simply placing a limit on your time or your energy. Practicing this specific distinction is what slowly rewires that deep underlying fear of abandonment.
Step 3 is arguably the hardest part, tolerating the discomfort on purpose. Let me warn you, the first few times you state a real preference, it is going to feel incredibly wrong. But in psychology, this is called exposure. Sitting with that uncomfortable feeling, instead of fleeing from it by over-apologizing or taking your no back, literally proves to your nervous system that the old danger, that old threat of losing love, no longer applies. You aren't doing something wrong, you are doing something new and healthy.
And finally, step 4, state your needs early. Most people pleasers wait until they are completely overwhelmed to speak up, and by then, the message usually comes out as explosive anger. Try saying, "I can't take that on this week," early on in the process, rather than silently absorbing 6 other things until you absolutely burst. Early honesty is far, far kinder to everyone involved than late resentment.
Remember, people-pleasing was never really about being kind. It was about staying safe in a world that once made your needs feel negotiable. But the people worth keeping in your life, they don't need you to disappear to make room for them. They can handle your honesty, they can handle your no, and the ones who can't, well, they were only ever asking for compliance, not kindness. You do not owe anyone a version of yourself that has no edges.
So I want to leave you with a provocative question to think about today. What is one thing you wanted to say no to lately? I'd love for you to drop your answer in the comments below to encourage some community reflection, because someone else reading it needs to know they aren't the only ones doing this work. Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer. Keep practicing that pause, keep sitting with that discomfort, and I will see you next time as we continue to dive into the things that make us tick. Take care.